With Malignant, it was very important for me to create an original story. I think audiences are starved for something that's new and different.
So, Malignant, the most divisive horror film to come out of Hollywood since, I don't know. I can't remember the last time a horror movie came out and people didn't know how to take it. Everything that comes out of Hollywood now is just milquetoast cookie cutter products that the masses flock to see, and nothing gets better. And when some little indie horror film with a smidge of competence comes out and gets a bit of praise, then oh my god, that movie is so overrated. So overall, it's kind of been the worst time as a fan of horror movies. And then along comes Malignant. Recently I made a video on the new Mortal Kombat movie, to which James Wan was a producer of, and I said he should have directed it because he's an ideas man, that James Wan. Because you know, he's an ideas man, that James Wan.
It's a motorcycle helmet with a built-in brake light.
You are an ideas man, Steve.
But while editing that review, I watched Malignant, and I feel like I had to mention it in some capacity. And literally at the time, the only thing I could say was, I wasn't implying that it was good, nor was it bad. All I could say was, Malignant was a riot. Now, this preceding video will be me taking off my film critic hat and putting on my horror movie fan hat. I've watched this film 3 times now, and I've had a different reaction every time. And so, to review this movie, I kind of have to take you through each different reaction I had. Let's get started. What you can't deny is James Wan's ability to make franchises and define genres. He starts off with his directorial debut of Saw. Not only does it go on to be a massive financial and cultural hit, it spawns a long, milked and stretched franchise, ran itself into the ground, and has since had 2 failed attempts at soft reboots. Next comes Insidious. Another hit, another franchise, not as successful or lasting as what was to come. One then makes The Conjuring. Massive hit. Doesn't just spawn a franchise, spawns a goddamn cinematic universe, and has been hogging the limelight of Hollywood horror for most of this decade. But not his Conjuring movies. He's only made 2 in between other films. Obviously there were some flops along the way, but ultimately one created 3 successful film franchises. 4 depending on Aquaman 2. Let's see if it hits as hard as the first one. Clearly the first Saw movie has the strongest visceral and based vision, and I actually prefer Insidious 2 than the first one. And I think the first 2 Conjuring movies are like the best mainstream horror for a basic broad audience that you're gonna get. Haven't seen the Fast and Furious movie he made because I only saw the first 2 when I was in high school, and yeah, nah, not for me, hey. But Aquaman blew me away. For a movie I walked into prejudging and ready to be cynical, I couldn't believe not just how fun it was, but how well constructed it was. He took a comic book property that any other filmmaker would have passed on and built this massive world out of it. Cherry on top, boom, first movie in the DC cinematic universe to break $1 billion. But then I assumed he would just go straight to Aquaman 2. I was actually delighted by the news of him making a new, original, and low-budget horror movie. I then saw no news about it up until the trailer was released. My initial reaction was, alright, kinda had no idea what to make of the actual idea or gimmick, but I was intrigued of what was shown of the villain. It instantly made me think of early 2000s horror, specifically like Jeepers Creepers or the Boogeyman movie, which is a movie, but had a weird villain with a trench coat that affects someone's past. Nowadays, it's a nun that stands there, or a doll that sits there, or some generic decrepit monster that goes bleh. We no longer have villains with like a personality design. But anyway, the movie dropped on September 10th, and all I saw online was, it's wacky, crazy, bizarre, campy, dumb, silly. All negative reactions. So, I had to see it. Even though it doesn't get released here until October 21st, but luckily this magic USB fell out of the sky and just so happened to have the movie on it. And so I watched it. When this movie was over, I had so many thoughts just machine gun firing through my head. Was it stupid? But it's James Wan. Was it bad on purpose? But it's James Wan. Is it some clunky homage to a weird genre I haven't seen? But it's James Wan. Why? My questioning was focused on the why. Why would he drop his modern day consistency to tell this particular story in this way? But what I knew for certain was there were some things in the movie that I liked.
Don't even try.
I watched this movie with a friend, and while we were both trying to deconstruct our own thoughts on the film, my housemate then got home, and we were kind of just shouting our reactions at him, but we're trying not to spoil anything. What I knew at the time was no one should see this film based on someone else's first reaction. Everyone needs to experience it themselves, and then decide if they like it or not. Please, watch this movie first, and then come back to this video. Even if you hate the movie and just want to come back and call me a big, wrong, silly, dumb, silly, because I'll be blurting out spoilers along the way. We decided to show my housemate just the intro scene, and after an hour had passed from finishing the film, with all of its context running through my brain, we pressed play again, and for some reason, the intro scene went from silly to perfectly setting up not just the ending, but the tone. When my main intention was to just watch my housemate's baffled face, I found myself staring at the movie, smiling ear to ear. What I only 2 hours prior thought was stupid, now I thought was interesting. The movie immediately started to hit differently now that I knew where it was going. This intro scene doesn't even lie. It's actually quite revealing. But what I didn't realize was I then had this intense desire to watch it again. And so I did. 2 days later, and I also recorded my housemate's reaction.
Now, you guys showed me the start of this the other day, and I was very confused just by that. Why is a research hospital on a cliffside like some horror film?
Welcome to the movie.
What the is this? What is going on? It's running weird. This movie's so... What the What the actual No, she sounds ridiculous, because this movie is ridiculous. What the is this movie now? What is going on? Oh, this movie's ridiculous. Is that the end? You know, she just murdered like 20 cops. Like, you don't walk away from that, eh?
A criticism I've seen with this movie is the dialogue is weird and dumb, which is the exact thing I give all these other movies shit for. But it's not the same type of weird dialogue. All the dialogue in this felt very David Lynchy. Lynch movies are like weird dreams while you're watching them, but they are not in any way by the book's cliche writing. His weird dialogue, performances, and settings all have a deeper meaning. And if you ask David Lynch himself, he's like,
it seems to me that that's what that recurrent visual motif is about. And I know you hate saying what things mean in your films, but am I right in thinking that that's at least in the right area? No.
But this can't be attributed to the mundane filth that I've reviewed over the past few years. All these movies are adults writing dialogue for teenagers, and fresh and up-and-coming actors will say anything that's written.
You could stay one age forever, what would it be?
Easy, 21.
No way, I'd be 10. Oh no, 10 was the worst, man. I say 30, it's like the height of sophistication. You?
What about the age we are right now? I'd like to stay like this forever.
Seriously? I mean, what's wrong with you?
Okay, fine. The age we are right now, but we could all live in a house together.
Okay, fine. But without Ren, though?
Yeah, obviously, that goes without saying.
Super funny, like, whoa.
The first time I watched Malignant, I was getting epic David Lynch vibes, but it was just so confusing coming from James Wan. You watch any of his movies and all the characters are very likable. Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson playing a loving 50s couple is perfect casting. Malignant, on the other hand, what I noticed on my second rewatch was the reason why the dialogue is weird is that it's so to the point, that it neglects spoon-feeding the audience. Kind of like how Christopher Nolan portrays his characters now. A whole career of nothing but net, then gets to Tenet and he's like, well, the only reason these characters are there is so the audience can follow along with my wacky sci-fi concept. If you can't follow it, I'm sure it's a factor of multiple things, you being a dum-dum. He even called the main character protagonist. Like when I first watched Tenet, I thought I was an idiot and wasn't paying attention properly. Then I got to the halfway mark and things started getting revealed and I was like, ah! I was up to speed the whole time. I just had to let the movie keep playing out. Malignant does the same thing. Cuts to the scene of a woman giving a tour in this creepy underground tunnel, and the whole time you're like, duh, who is she? Oh, this script is really bad. It's ruining the integrity of horror. Upon my second viewing, the scene prior in one sentence sets up exactly who she is.
Sydney, I'm adopted. Mom told me that my biological mother died during my birth.
But like, you know, it's all a part of Gabriel's plan.
Because it's all part of the plan.
In fact, that's most of what these weird scenes are upon your first watch. It's a setup to something later, but it just doesn't want you to know that yet. Like there's this one scene that threw me for a loop the first time. The sister goes all the way to the abandoned hospital that set this story in motion. It's creepy, it's spooky, but what does it do?
Why does she park so close to the cliff? Oh my god, is she gonna get attacked? Just take the whole box, sweetheart, and run. Oh my god. It was nothing.
Went all the way to the hospital for no conflict.
She just got in, got this and left.
Yeah, I love it when shit works out. Are we going to the hospital where she's looking around and hears a noise? There's no one there, and then suddenly... Oh, then she got a fright and then runs out and heads home. Boo! No, she gets the information she needs, goes straight home to get the answers that not only the characters but the audience needs, which gets to a f***ed up reveal that is better than boring tension that leads to a jump scare. On top of all this, I think the reason why the performances come across as weird is because they are simple stereotypes to follow. Traumatized lead, ditzy blonde sister, sexy Asian cop, sassy black cop, other people. But the drive of the movie isn't them. It's the movie's villain and the mystery of who he is and what his goal is.
I can't tell you how long I waited for this.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy not knowing exactly where the movie was going from my first watch through.
So I take it this is the f***ing alien deformed dude from the f***ing start. I don't know what's happening. All I know is there's what I can only assume her f***ing brother, twin brother or some bullshit, maybe. It's like a split personality thing. Is it a demon possession thing?
Back to that, are you?
I don't know!
It went from ghost to brother, back to demon. This was all fun. I'm just so used to being slumped in my chair, just like pointing my finger at the screen the second a jump scare is about to happen, because nothing leading up to it was interesting. Another thing that was abundantly clear on my second watch is this movie is heavily rooted in James Wan's original style, but perfectly recaptured. This guy's rise through the film industry was a very specific era, the early 2000s of horror. CGI experimentation was high, metal music was standard movie score, cinematography was taking more of a music video approach than realistic, and all classic horror movies were starting to get remade to be more edgy and graphic. But this is the film culture James Wan was navigating through. Dead Silence is like the same movie as Saw. Aside from the two people in a room gimmick, it's the whole fast-cut, edgy film that leads to a big twist reveal at the end in a very Saw-like montage.
Now, who's the dummy?
Game over.
Something I'm going to say that might be controversial. Dead Silence isn't that good of a movie, but not a single Conjuring spin-off can hold a candle anywhere close to it as a horror movie. Especially if you swap out Donnie Wahlberg's character with a cartoon. It would still be the same movie, and better than The Nun.
The darkest chapter in the Conjuring universe.
I've always had this theory with the Insidious movies. James Wan didn't return for the second Saw movie, and just kept moving on to new stuff. But he stayed on as a producer of the franchise with Leigh Whannell. Then along comes Insidious, which were much more polished movies. It's like he got out of the edgy, gritty 2000s headspace and wanted to do something more in the vein of the 70s possession and haunted house subgenre. It seems like he was always working towards that perfect type of Exorcist, Amityville type movie, and I think he perfected that with The Conjuring. Malignant now feels like him being sick of this current slog of copy and paste jump scare, spooky possession that's kind of his fault, and wants to go back to a more creative era for horror movies. I kept hearing this term giallo after seeing this movie. One kept saying this movie takes inspirations from that genre, but I think that was his easy talking point to help say that this movie is different. You can look it up and yeah, there's lots of things in this movie that you could say are homages to the giallo genre, but this movie isn't really different. It's just a classic movie that perfectly belongs in the 70s to 2000s. For me, it's mostly just showing that James Wan hasn't actually shed the era he started making movies in. This movie just feels like an amalgamation of everything James Wan has been influenced by and has learnt throughout his entire career. The first 10 minutes has his Conjuring Insidious style filtered through Gabriel's Arrival. Super wide handheld shots, as well as creepy slow zooms. F***ing love slow zooms. The two cop characters, sexy Asian cop and sassy black cop.
What? They gave us a lead.
Cute little actress thought you a ball and you going chasing like a dog.
What was that?
Nothing.
Boom, all the way back to Saw. But what exploded out of all of this was his particular style of action from Aquaman. The super wide-angle one take that spins around the action. This is a big point of criticism that this horror movie turns into action schlock, but what? Did you not enjoy the police station massacre?
Holy shit. Oh my god. What the f is this movie? Holy shit.
To have such an elaborate action sequence of Gabriel slaughtering cops, backwards, and it doesn't look like shit. What's the problem? It's actually a really well choreographed, violent action scene that shits all over the new Mortal Kombat movie. Which James Wan should have directed, because he's an ideas man, that James Wan.
He's an ideas man, Steve.
This scene really reminds me of the first Terminator. When you have just seen the Terminator killing people one-on-one, well, here's a vulgar display of power when our main threat is matched against a bunch of trained cops in a police station, just to show you how dangerous they really are. But this also reminds me of Sam Raimi, but in reverse. No pun intended. You have someone who's established for their crazy violent horror movies, and then they get to make big superhero movies, and they bring that influence and style with them.
Yellow eyes.
This is the reverse of James Wan, learning so much from his two action movies and bringing those influences back into a horror movie. I think that's another reason why people have a negative reaction to this movie the first time around. You're too busy questioning James Wan's choice in style and tone, rather than questioning what Gabriel actually is and what his plan is. But upon my second viewing, this movie really didn't just come out of nowhere. This isn't a well-established director losing the plot, who is actually doing something that I feel like we've needed for a while now, and only someone of his caliber could really pull it off. And this didn't really become clear until I rewatched the movie a third time by myself. I think the marketing of this movie was such a catch-22, especially for James Wan. If you market this film as what it is, a woman with a parasitic twin who can control her body and do Matrix bullet time and martial arts and sweet flips, no one would see it. Do you market it as, whoa, what a wacky concept? No one would see it, especially coming from James Wan. Or you advertise it as a James Wan movie, a monster, loud noises, his credits of previous movies, his traditional spooky cinematography, which is essentially a lie that reveals itself within the first 60 seconds of this movie. But this is such a doomed if you do, doomed if you don't, because it's an original film. If this movie had some cult status comic book that predated it, then all the backlash would get counter backlash of, it wasn't made for you, this was made for fans of the comic book, therefore you don't get it. And he's homaging so many horror subgenres, the likes of which these current generations haven't even seen. Because what comes out of Hollywood now apes off of the three templates: Exorcist, Shining, and Nightmare on Elm Street. Demons be possessing people, spooky haunted house where not much goes on, and a stylized villain who can bend reality and logic apparently. But with all their grit removed and replaced with PG-13 jump scares. It's like going through a decade of torture porn, the hardest horror phase there was, to an onslaught of found footage ghost movies. And now it just seems like everything and anything that gets made these days is just 1970s paranormal ghost demon haunted house movies. No more monsters, no more slashers, no more aliens, no more actual characters for horror movie villains. Like, look at all these new generations being raised on everything that's old is dated and cringe. But they think horror movies of today are better because jump scare. The dumb Annabelle doll is what I hate the most. The doll does nothing. 1 minute it's there, the next it's not. Then at the last minute, a black goat demon shows up, and I can't even remember how they defeat the demon at the end of those movies. Yet it's a trilogy. 3 movies of that same premise. I have mad respect for David F. Sandberg, but even he couldn't make that boring premise interesting. Love you, Dave. Best of luck with Shazam 2. Hey, back in my day, you spent a bit of the movie thinking it was just a doll, and then the big fucked up reveal was this.
I said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch! You filthy slut! Did you fuck with me?
And then at the end of the movie, the doll kept getting more messed up for an extra scare factor. This new generation watches the Annabelle movies or The Nun, and when a painfully obvious jump scare is incoming, they react with...
I declare that Quadri Effects does not understand cinema.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I fucking hate what this generation thinks is cinema and what is too old and dated. I grew up in a time when a little girl got possessed by the devil and says stuff that will make this new generation clutch their ironic hipster pearls.
You know what she did? Your canting daughter?
So, I don't know if this is clear yet, but after spending so much time with this movie now, I fucking love it. I think it's one of the best horror movies of this past decade. And once that shit hits cinemas in Australia, I'll be going back and definitely getting this on Blu-ray. This movie was ripping off a big jump scare band-aid and giving us violent fun. I like Gabriel. From the moment you see this distorted image of him at the start, all throughout the building mystery of what he is, up to the reveal. I liked how he couldn't talk for himself, so he did that through technology like phones and radios. I like how he wears this ludicrous overcoat backwards, so the back can be the front. I like how his weapon is his own custom blade made from the award given to the doctor who suppressed him as a kid. I like that he's on his own personal mission for revenge. I like this original character. I always bring up Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy, which apparently gets exhausting for people. But what do you want? It's my favorite horror movie, it's my favorite character, also my bloody channel. But that's ignoring the silly direction the franchise went in. I mean just the first movie contained. This movie is the new age Nightmare on Elm Street for me. On my first watch through of Malignant, it doesn't matter how it was throwing my brain out of whack with its weirdness and crazy tone. Every time Gabriel was on screen, I was hooked. Not only is he violent, he also has more emotional complexity to his character. I love that not only was it fun watching him murder people with kung fu and super strength, I was shocked to find myself giving a shit when he finally gets a one-on-one with Madison at the end.
I didn't ask to be tethered to you. You don't deserve your body. I can use it better than you.
Not anymore.
In fact, this whole scene reminds me of the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street. The main character wins by figuring out the threat and earns her own victory. But that's just my own personal interest in the villain of a horror movie. There's this other bigger thing I miss from old school horror movies. It's this one element that Hollywood used to define the horror genre that has since been heavily buried by jump scares. And what I'm referring to is fucked up ideas. What's a shame about The Exorcist now is that it's so dated. The girl says swear words and it's laughable. It's also boring AF. Yeah, by today's standards. But you know what that movie did in the 70s? It made people run out of the cinema throwing up.
The manager of the National Theatre in Westwood says that there indeed are at least a dozen people who faint or become ill during every showing.
I passed out in about the first half hour, yeah.
I fainted like 10 minutes after the first beginning of the movie.
I guess it was when she was talking the devil's voice. Oh God, I can't believe it.
The time right before my time, there were horror movies that used to be banned in multiple countries that are now considered classics. Sam Raimi had to defend the first Evil Dead in court for how violent it was. Now thanks to high definition, you can see there's literally paint on the actors' faces. This is the main reason I have such a vendetta against the horror movies of today, because all they have to offer are these toothless jump scares and no fucked up ideas. Horror is meant to get under your skin, not just go boo. I am sick of boo. And now entire franchises are being built on boo. Along comes Malignant and we have an alien-looking creature growing out of the back of a little girl's head. Fucked up. They cut as much of him out as possible and shove his face into the little girl's skull. Fucked up. At the end, his brain face breaks out of her skull. Fucked up. This character isn't just limited to being there 1 minute and then not being there the next. Followed exclusively by boo. Because this is a character with an actual personality. Like Freddy, like Chucky, like Pinhead.
Please, God.
This is God.
Hello, Andy.
Who are you?
Explorers in the further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
What do you want from me?
To show you what the cancer has become.
Horror icons with actual personalities that did fucked up shit, stabs you in the face, drags you up the wall, uses voodoo to break your legs, rips you apart with magic hooks and chains. Nah, fuck that. I'll take a goat demon popping out of the shadows and going boo any day. I guess this just brings me to my biggest frustration from the reaction to this movie. When the critics give it a high score and horror audiences reject it, just proves you can't try anything new. You can't throw out the mundane standard and go batshit crazy. I'm usually the one that hates the justification of, duh, I wasn't expecting a masterpiece. You just meant to switch your brain off and have fun. But finally, along comes a movie for me. Dumb, violent fun, an actual new horror slasher icon that can hold his own amongst the greats of yesteryear. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. You can't do anything different with horror now. This PG-13 tripe that the masses flock to and deem true horror, that's what they're gonna keep making. As much as I love The Exorcist and The Shining, I've always missed the era of fun, violent slashers. Like most people from just a few decades ago, we'd rewatch these old classics and laugh at the cheesy dialogue and writing, we'd cheer at the gruesome deaths, but those days are over. James Wan drops his slick 70s retro demon in a haunted house gimmick and gives us an 80s dumb fun slasher with a pleasant handful of fucked up ideas, thrilling violent action set pieces, and this is when everyone decides to be a fucking horror film connoisseur, and everyone's just overlooking the fact that it was an original movie without being a reboot of something prior or being adapted from a comic book or having a based on true events tagline. It was a true first time watch, seeing as there was no prior information about the story before it was released. The only slashers we'll get now are the soft reboots of remakes of old properties, which will do the Force Awakens legacy bullshit. The children of the old characters going through the same story again. But people will still bitch about how they aren't as good as the originals, but will reject Malignant because it isn't as good as The Shining. Keep resetting Michael Myers, keep resetting Leatherface, drag back Robert Englund so we can have a puffy Freddy who's slower with Robert Englund's jowls and puppy dog old man eyes. But nah, it's fine. They're ignoring the sequels past the second movie. We got Nancy back and now her daughter has to fight Freddy. But we gotta reject Malignant even though it's a fresh, brand new character to get behind. Oh man, so many continuity errors. Why is he super strong? How does he control electricity? How does he talk through the phone? I mean, we're all fine with Jason being super strong for no reason. We're all fine with Michael Myers being bulletproof. We were fine with the Ring Girl after you watched her videotape picking up a phone and ringing you just to say 7 days.
7 days.
But now it's just a monster bursts out of the shadows. Their mouth stretches super wide. They made the editing all choppy, but they won't do anything fucked up. Squeaky clean horror that grandma can enjoy. That's it, everyone. Back to The Nun versus Hereditary. That's all we have forever now. Hereditary's boring. The Nun is stupid. Rah, rah, rah. No, rah, rah, rah. Time for a La Llorona sequel. She's got more kids to visual effect that. Hey, I wonder if they're gonna make a third Ouija movie. Hey, you guys, who's moving the planchette this time? It isn't funny. Slenderman Reloaded. Hey, I wonder what sequel, prequel, remake Blumhouse has in store next. Yeah, James Wan better fucking stick to Aquaman because his horror days are over despite inventing a whole subgenre. I wonder if this new Texas Chainsaw Massacre will be just as shit as the rest of the sequels. When's Paranormal Activity coming back? I wonder what those ghosts have been up to. Annabelle in space must be coming along nicely now.
What the hell is going on? What the fuck is going on?